Hello and welcome once again to Boomer 11 Live and another exciting day of World Cup fixtures, another upset to talk about. And I have with me the same guest once again with us, Abel. A different set of fans on either ends, but would you reckon it's an upset again? I mean, we did predict that Japan is going to be a tricky team to play against, but a strong German team once again fails to win their opening game. But Spain, however, in the same fashion that France outstayed Australia right after that underdog hurrah, Spain makes sure that they swat aside Costa Rica and 7-0. So a World Cup of, I mean, and definitely we had the first match between Morocco and Croatia, which ended in a goalless draw. Exciting day for World Cup fixtures overall, isn't it, Abel?
I mean, absolutely. What a day of World Cup fixtures those were. Especially if we talk about that Japan Germany game to start off with. It was a game which a lot of people did not see coming because of the way in which how Germany started off that first half, in the way in which they were controlling the game, the way in which they were absolutely dominant in terms of physicality, in terms of possession, in terms of more attacking threats. It did look like a game where Germans could have easily scored 3 to 4 goals and killed the game, but then that's when you talk about tactical masterclass by certain coaches, and they come out to haunt the opposition. Like yesterday, you saw one where Saudi Arabian coach did have a tactical masterclass against Argentina. Similarly, today, once again, these smaller teams who do not really come up as the strong favorites, uh, you know, prove to these bigger teams that time and time again why we can tactically outclass you. And I have to give credit to Moriyasu, that's their manager, and it's the first time ever they've been having a Japanese manager in a World Cup. There was a lot of passion from the fans as well. I thought the momentum started shifting the moment they scored the first goal, and I feel that's what happened even yesterday's game, right? The moment you equalize, the momentum
Yeah.
shifts on your hand. Then from there on, it's a team which scores the equalizer, who rides on the momentum and goes on to score another one. But tactically speaking, I have to give credit to Moriyasu. First half, he was playing back four and he switched to back three. Uh, I mean, time and time again, I felt, Rudiger, Sula, Slaughterback, they were absolutely showing their physicality in the first half. You also saw Rudiger showing those signs where I am superior, I'm stronger than these lads. But then it's just
Yeah.
matter of time, right? Where things come back to haunt you and haunt you badly. That's exactly what happened on the football pitch today. Just passion and drive, just outclass a team who were expected to win.
And I mean, it was amazing to see that, two of the superstars for Japan, Tomiyasu and Minamino, did not start. They were on the bench. And of course, there were some Bundesliga players in this team. So it's not like they don't know some of these German players. But credit definitely goes to Japan and Moriyasu, as you mentioned. But let's look at some of the stats very quickly. To start with the possession stat right away, only 26 percentage possession according to footy stats that Japan had on the ball, while 74 percentage for Germany. Yet somehow it was Japan who were able to keep the ball out of their net more often that Germany were. I mean, how would you and let's also look at I think probably the one defining stat of the match. Germany has had 26 shots, out of which only 9 shots were on target, 17 shots were missed. And Japan had 4 shots on target, 8 shots off target. Do you reckon 26 shots, some of those shots that were taken by Germany were just reckless and are not required really and did not really have any possibility of going inside the net? It seemed like they wanted to really play the kind of game that you saw probably Spain play against Costa Rica, and they expected things to go their way too easily.
Yeah, I would say so, because especially if we talk about the way in which the number of chances which were created by the German team, they could have capitalized on it easily, and this could have well been a 3-1 or even been a 3-0 or 4-0 kind of a game, because they could have killed the game in the first half. Number of chances with Jamal Musiala got, or number of chances even Kai Havertz to create,
Yeah.
I thought those should have been put behind the net. More often than not, these are the chances which you miss, which will come to haunt you at some stage. And that's exactly what happened today as well. But that's where I give credit to players like Maeda. Kamara, these lads just kept at it. Especially Kamara, I thought was in the first innings did not look like a player who was really up there in that game. To be honest, he was absolutely outclassed in various ways. And if you talk about this game in depth, especially look at the XG also created by them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You
if you
can
look at the
clearly
XG,
see,
yeah.
look at the XG also created by them. That clearly says a story of how dominant or how threatening were Germany throughout the course of the game. After first half,
Exactly.
not many were even given chance to uh, the Japanese team to come back into the game. But then look at the substitutions made. He removed out Tanaka and brought in Ritsuduan, who plays for Freiburg, and that's where it started turning for them. That was the exact move which from where it started turning, and it started turning big time. But then but then at the same time, I have a feeling, you know, the tactical changes which he made in the second half, especially one was bringing in
I mean,
Duan.
Abel, as you're speaking, right?
Yeah.
How much if you draw parallel from the game against the Argentina game against Saudi and the game now that we witnessed today, it's pretty similar, right? You had Mueller take a penalty today, score the opening goal, and then after the first half, and there was a very close possibility in that half itself to become two. In fact, became 2-0. Then a VAR, I mean, there was a change that happened that made it 1-0, which, by the way, turned out to be very, very important. Then in the second half, I mean, a rejuvenated Japan comes and scores two really, really classy goals, you would say, that showed the tactical superiority of the manager. Same thing that happened with Argentina as well, where Messi scored a penalty, and then again a rejuvenated Saudi Arabia came. You saw their tactical superiority of their manager, and then things turned around for them. And both managers, both Flick and Scaloni could not adapt to their opposite managers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that is scary parallel, to be very, very honest, because the kind of moments which happened in both the games, if you draw a parallel, you can understand that in both the games the situations were very similar. But especially, I thought in today's game, in at least in the first half, I thought Saudi did show the signs that they wanted to play a high line of defense. They did show the plans they had against Argentina, but today's game just didn't look like that. It just looked like how superior were Germans in the first half. When second half it turned all around, especially after that first goal. That's where those two substitutions comes into play, right? If you look at those two substitutions, both those players came. Both those players came in later stage in the game. Especially, I think Duan came in first in 71st minute. No, first actually Asano came in the 57th minute. Then Duan came in the 71st minute. From then on, it started turning around. Both those people got into the scoring sheet, and that's what I believe. It's about not letting the game away from you, staying at it, staying put, and creating those chances. That's something which they kept doing. And I'll also question Germans in terms of their tactics, especially if you look at the way in which they started with Muller and also with Musiala in the same team. Both those players like to cut in inside spaces. They are not players who would like to stay on wider angle, wider regions. Very surprising the way in that the lineup was preferred. I thought they should have gone with the Leroy Sané, especially on the left hand region, and to play Napri on the right. And Musiala can play in the middle, or Muller can play in the middle. They can't have both Muller and Musiala starting in the same team, who both like to have a free roaming number 10 position. And if they both are going to drift wide, now on the left hand side, especially if I have to talk about Nabri, someone who was cutting in more time more and more often, which helped someone like David Rom to really make those runs. I thought David Rom was pretty decent today in terms of the runs he was making, in the terms of the attacking impact he was having in the final third. But on the right hand region, that's something they will have to look into. It's they played Nicolas Zula as their right back, which I thought was pretty absurd again. In terms of his attacking quality is much inferior when you compare him with any other right back. Maybe they can go with the Joshua Kimmich there. Joshua Kimmich is not a bad right back option to be deployed. Then you can bring in a Goretzka,
Yeah,
play alongside Gundogan. That gives them a lot more uh, attacking threat to the right hand region, and maybe bring in a Leroy Sané on the left and Nabri on the right as well, which is quite a possibility with which they can actually go in the further game. So I was very surprised. But to start off with, they started off by playing like Bayern Munich. They played exactly like Bayern Munich, how they play, keep the ball a lot more, press at the opposition, create those chances, be more fluid in terms of their positional interplay as well. But somewhere or the other, I felt they lost the intensity slightly. Now, bringing in Goretzka in the second half, I thought was a decent move. It was to bring in a little bit more physicality through the center. which I would support, to be very honest. Because if you are bringing in Goretzka, I think it's fair enough that you give him enough time through the middle, and you bring him to actually to defend that lead which you were holding on to. But at the same time, I personally thought they could have tried in someone like a Julian Brand in today's game. He should have been ideally brought in instead of Muller,
Hmm.
and should have played him through the central region. It was a possibility they could have gone with. And if you look at their strikers, they do not really have a striker. They have a 17-year-old Mokoko who is yet to make a real big mark anywhere in his footballing career. Um, they're playing Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz is a serious presser of the ball. The way in which he puts in those efforts to press at the opposition's defensive line, fantastic. You have to give credit to Kai Havertz for that. But is it good enough for you to win a World Cup? I highly doubt that. Is it good enough for a team? If you look at Spain on the other hand, they are facing a similar situation, but that the Spain system is so much more different when you compare to the German system. Both like to play a certain kind of football. Uh, Germans are more direct. I mean, we were having a conversation before as well. How you were talking about how Germans are more direct and Spain likes to play possessional based football.
Yeah,
I agree with
yeah.
that. Spain are more possessional based football, and in a Spain team you don't need a striker.
I
Like
mean,
like
we
in a,
will speak
yeah.
about that, right? I will ask the question for those of you, I mean, the viewers who don't have the context. So, what my theory was, Abel, and you can probably back me up on this, is that Germany and Argentina both play, direct football where they try and their ball progression is a lot more quicker, you would say, and they try to get end to end, very quickly, and that kind of leaves that gap for losing possession, because when you're trying those through balls, most often than not a through ball might go wrong, and that might allow the opposition to be to dispossess the particular team. And we saw both Saudi and Japan hit Germany and Argentina on counters that ensued because of this possession that was lost. But Spain's football, what we saw today, was because someone like a Costa Rica never got the ball. They're what do you say? They are only running behind without getting the ball without making any progression, thus draining their energy and really making it difficult for the team. Because as the game progresses, Spain is not is not losing as much energy as you would expect their opposition is, because all they're doing is they're playing the ball around, waiting for the right runs to right opportunities, while maybe Germany and Argentina have to use a lot more energy, and that kind of hurts their chances as well. Not to say that their style of playing is bad, but maybe Spain's style of playing helps a lot more against smaller nations who especially want those magical points very quickly.
I mean, I can understand that because especially with Germans, they are a lot more direct. They like to hold the ball a lot more. But in terms of the runs they make, in terms of the attacking threats, I still think Germans can be a lot more attackingly more potent compared to Spain. That's mainly because of the kind of players they've got, the kind of system which they play. They press a lot more. They like to regain the ball in the opposition's final third very quickly, and the pressing football really helps Germans. I mean, if you look at all the Bundesliga matches, most of the teams do play in that kind of system, right? It it's very similar but yet different. In terms of the ideology, it's about keeping the ball. In terms of regaining the ball, but in German football, you know that you still don't want the ball. You press on triggers. That's something which Germans do. They can't, it's impossible to maintain the same intensity of press throughout the 90 minutes. They press on triggers more often than not, and pressing on triggers in especially in those phases where game could slightly shift. I thought, especially from minute 55 to 71, in today's game was a decisive 15 minutes of the game. I personally feel. Now, if I'm going to bring in the attacking threats created by the teams, if you look, the 75th and the 83rd minute was where the goals were scored. But if you look at the minutes from 55 to 60, where Germans took slightly a backseat, and when I thought, when I thought Japan really seized an opportunity to shift the momentum slightly, that's where the game started turning. And then again, there is a shift in momentum for Germans when they started pressing again, when they realized the game was slightly shifting. Crowd got involved there, and Japan really felt at that point, okay, we can penetrate inside the box of the Germans a lot more from here on if we start having if we start making those runs more often, if we start pushing men forward. I thought that gave Japan a lot more confidence. Though Germans came back into that game for a slight bit of phase as well. I think 5 minutes from 65 to 70 was where Germans were slowly trying to creep back into the game. but then that confidence really shook them. They couldn't keep the same intensity because Germans in the first half were pressing really high. In the second half, they couldn't keep that intensity up. That is quite understandable with the kind of football they're playing as well. Because I still think they have the personnel to do it. It's not like they don't have the personnel, or they have too many old legs that they can't keep pressing, or they can't play that football with intensity. But in second half, I still thought they should have continued with it at least for that 15 minutes, then drop down the press slightly, then see where things would have gone. Because if they would have scored a couple of goals in that second half to start off with, I still think the game would have been dead and buried, because Japan would have definitely not believed that they could have come back from there on, because after what had happened in the first half. But then them lowering their press to say that, okay, we have a 1-0 lead, we can still play around, give the ball, not give the ball a lot. But then that's where Japan started pressing. Japan started counter pressing them. Japan started regaining the ball, making the men forward, which meant that attacking threats created by Japan is still minimal, but at the same time, the attacking threats which were created were highly attacking. I mean, it had more threats than what Germans were able to create through that phase. There was one brilliant save which was made by Neuer during that phase, which I thought was excellent.
Yeah.
I thought that was
In
the save
fact,
which was.
to be fair, Abel, you would expect that Germany should have been 3-1 down, but it was Neuer who kept them in the game. Even the second goal, right? He did save that goal, but then it was a rebound, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So he made sure he was a wall. He was. I wouldn't call the Berlin Wall, but he definitely was a wall in that all between those sticks, and that's what you expect from Neuer. But when you have to give credit to Japan, they did breach their defense time and time again. But what do you reckon was the difference between the German defense in the first half, where Japan did look very good in the first 5 to 6 minutes? I mean, they did make some runs. There was a very early chance that Japan missed, but then in the second half, Japan found it a lot more easier to make those runs, right?
Yeah, that's again what I'm saying about. I thought they started playing a lot more aerial balls in, for instance, which I think is a weakness for Slaughterback. I've been following Slaughterback. He's one of my favorite players, to be very honest, and I freaking love the player. I have my close association with Dortmund as well, because I follow Dortmund a lot. So I love Slaughterback, and if you have him on FIFA, he's an overpowered defender. Let me just put it out there. So I just love the fact that. Uh, I just love the fact that they went in with Slaughterback, but at the same time, I still think there are weaknesses with this German side, especially when you're trying to break the lines. They are being more susceptible to breaking the lines, which is quite interesting, especially with Rudiger. I not expect that. I still think
Yeah.
Rudiger is still a safer option, but with Slaughterback on the left hand side, they are able to create chances, because what is happening is David Rom is making those attacking runs, which is leaving them
Hmm.
open through the left hand side, and that left hand region is where they were making those runs. Now, if I'm going to bring in those two goals which they scored, you can understand that both those goals did come from the left hand region. Um, Means it looks right on this, but when it comes to that area, it is the left hand space of the German defense, and that is where both those goals came from. Now, if you look, both those goals which are marked in red did come from the left hand region, because the first goal did come
Yeah.
from a left hand region. Second goal also, the attacking threat was created from the left hand region. And if you look at those 12 shots which were taken by Japanese team through that course as well, most of those 12 shots they did take it from the right hand side. But then when they did realize that there's a slight opening in the left hand region, they tried to make the most out of it, especially to drag someone like a Slaughterback wide, which again is exposing his weakness against the aerial balls. His aerial duels, the number of aerial duels he's won in the entire season has been comparatively lesser to any other defender in Bundesliga as well. Yet another weakness which I think they should be covering up pretty quickly. As much as a fan of Slaughterback I am, because why they play Slaughterback is because is a predominant left footed centre back. And alongside him partnering with David Rom, who's another left-footed left back, who can also come in as left centre back at times, gives them a good attacking progress, and in terms of versatility as well, it really helps them. But with David Raum, what you get is you want him to be a more attacking threat than a defensive threat. Or they would have gone with someone like a Robin Gosens. They would have played like a 3-5-2 kind of a system, where they would have gone with Robin Gosens on the left hand region, which they did throughout the course of the Euros. David Raum is because also his defensive acumen is much better than Robin Gosens, and Robin Gosens hasn't been in best of form. But I personally feel when you have someone like a David Raum making those runs, I personally think Gundogan is not your player to cover your left half spaces. You need to have a better physical player to be covering in the left half spaces. I don't think Nabri is going to drop down to left half regions a lot more. He's not going to give you that defensive work rate compared to uh, maybe a Joshua Kimmich. I think Joshua Kimmich can be possibly shifted to the left hand region, and then maybe Gundogan on the right, because you still have a Nicola Zule on the right hand side. He is not going to make those attacking runs, but he's going to be more compact on the right hand side, where he's going to be on the lines as well. He's not going to go. He's not going to press on a high line. He's not going to be someone who's going to be more attackingly potent. He's not going to come and give you those crosses from the right hand region. It's going to be mainly done by the player on the right hand region. It's going to be either done by Muller, who's going to drift wide and give you those crosses, or Gundogan cutting in and drifting onto the right hand side and giving those crosses. But here, not having that left, not covering those left hand region can be an issue with this German side, which was very nicely exploited by the Japanese team. And I also have to give credit to Japanese goalkeeper Gonda. He had a terrific day today between the sticks. Once again, a goalkeeper having a
I
very
mean,
good
it
day.
was such a turnaround, wasn't it? Because Gonda did not have a very good first half. The
Yeah,
commentators on the air were criticizing him a lot for some of his ball playing actions and some of the saves that he did. Even during the, I mean, the first goal, correction by the way, the first goal was scored by Ilke Gundogan and not Thomas Müller. But just before that, before those game, I mean, penalty as well, there was a lot of criticism levied on him. But in the second half, especially in the last 15 minutes, right, when Germany got a few free kicks and corners towards the end, because Germany did have the height advantage, remember, especially with Manuel Neuer also coming up, away from the sticks into the Japanese final third. Even then, he held on. The defense held on. But you reckon Germany did get six? What do you say? Corners. You reckon they could have really had a threat in those corners because they had massive height advantage over Japanese players.
I mean, they did show that
I know
even through
it's
their
too
actions
harsh.
as well.
Probably it's very harsh to say that, but you expect the German team to convert those chances, right? Six corners, one goal at least.
Yeah, I mean, at least you when you have physicality of Rudiger and Schlotterback's height there, you are supposed to convert at least one. But yet again, coming to the fact that how they were technically placing them, right? If you look at the markings done by Japanese team through that corners, it was pretty nice as well. I thought the way in which their defense marked those corners. I know they're physically not the strongest, but I thought Yoshida and Itakura, they both had a very good game behind. Though in the first half they had a horrible game, but when it came to the set pieces, I thought they were doing a very decent job in terms of at least clearing those balls and taking the game, taking the game to be on a balance. It could have possibly been a 2-0 or 3-0 in the first half itself, but they just kept the game in the balance. Sakai, I thought, was another player who had a very decent game. He made some important interventions out there, though. Again, talking about Japan, it's a game of two halves for them. The first half, they all looked
Yeah.
pretty horrible in terms of the way in which they played, in the terms of if you look them in the overall game rating as well, you will find that the overall game rating might not look very good because of the kind of poor
I
first half they
mean,
had.
we did show you guys the stats. When we showed you the stats, Japan was behind every stat. Shots, possession, XG. In fact, Germany has double the XG of Japan. But at the end of the day, XG is just expected goals, but you don't win by expected goals, right? You win by goals.
Absolutely,
That's where
absolutely.
Japan really seized the moment.
Absolutely. And also bringing in someone like a Tomiyasu in the second half was a very brilliant move. Removing someone like a Kubo and bringing in Tomiyasu was a move which I thought was pretty decent to go in with three at the back all of a sudden. And that did really help. That really made sure
Yeah.
Nagatomo and Sakai did push on through the wings and gave a lot more attacking threat by using them. Yeah, I know it looks like a system which can be slightly defensive when you're 1-0 down, but then look at that. That's what helps. Removing an attacking player like Kubo, who's supposed to be one of the best youngsters, and bringing in Tomiyasu, who's been in fine form with Arsenal. These kind
Yeah.
of tactical changes just really come into hand, and of course, it had to be someone like it had to be a player who plays in the German league who had to come and score. Ritsuduan plays for Freiburg, and he had to come and score against the German team. So
Yeah.
it was just that kind of a day. I mean, if you have to give credit to Japan, I did predict with a couple of my friends that Japan will be having a ball of a time today. Just watch out for them. And though I really want Germany to do well, but I still think Japan had a superior side. And Germans did bomb. German bombers did get kamikaze. the end of the day, to be
They
honest,
did,
because
they did.
they
Yeah.
it was like a proper kamikaze attack, where everything was on the line, and all of a sudden it got destroyed as well. So I love the organization which Japan went in the second half as well. With they did not lose shape, what Germans did. If I have to talk about in the second half, which I saw a lot from Argentina as well, especially when you're playing in a system where you're pressing high, you're keeping a high line of defense, to lose shape time and time again when the long balls were played, I thought was a little catastrophic from the German end, because they shouldn't have been doing that time and time again. At least they should have gathered themselves. I thought they panicked in those 15 minutes, which shouldn't have happened for a team of Germany's stature, who have played many high pressure games, especially including World Cups. They were the defending champions. What, 8 years ago? They still have players. They still have leader like Neuer who can still direct the back line. But a lot of these players did panic. We're
Hmm.
talking about Rudiger, who's a Champions League winner. You're talking about likes of um, who else? Schlotterbeck, who plays in a high quality team in Germany. Zule, who is a Champions League winner once again. These players have played in high octane games time and time again. I can understand about David Raum. He's still upcoming. He's still not played there. Joshua Kimmich, once again, he's been part of some great triumphs for Bayern Munich. Gundogan once again, but these people losing shape was very surprising for me. I just didn't understand why was it happening so often with the German team, which shouldn't have happened. That's something which they will be taking a note of, especially when a team is trying to press you, play those long balls, exposing your high line of defense. Now other teams are going to take a note of it. I know Spain is going are not specialists in playing the high line of defense, are not specialists in playing the long balls, but then this Spanish team who I saw today against Costa Rica have versatility in them. They can attack. Costa
Yeah.
Rica did play
I mean, let's
did
just,
pretend.
I mean, now that you
Yeah,
have transitioned and we have not much time left, let's talk about this game, right? Spain versus Costa Rica. And Spain showed, I suppose Spain just, it wasn't, it was really not a competition. At one point in time, it just looked like Spain was playing with themselves. And there were none of the Costa Rican team members on the pitch. It was just too dominant a performance. It is almost like you playing FIFA in beginner mode, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, to be very honest, the way in which we did say that how Spain
Yeah, we did.
uh, was a team to watch out for, regardless of the players they've chosen. Uh, I just had a feeling, this team is the most. This team is a team who plays for the system, and look at the game they
Yeah,
had. I think this was the most complete game they've had in a World Cup after 2010. They've not had such a complete game in a World Cup in last 12 years. So this was a game where they imposed a statement, went in with a system who they preferred, went in with Asensio. Was a very surprising call, but I love that call which he made. Played Rodri as a center back, a very interesting call which I will talk about. All in all, a team
yeah,
which went in with a system what they believed in, stood true to what they believed in, and outclassed an opposition. You can say it's Costa Rica at the end of the day, but Costa Rica is not a pushover of a 7-0 kind of a game. They've got players who play in top leagues. Look at Kyle Navas is there. They've got Campbell. They've got Fuller. They've got players Duarte. All these players play in big leagues, and they're not pushovers at the end of the day. And the way they dominated them, the way they bullied them, I thought that was just putting a statement in the World Cup to other teams that, see, we are here and we mean business. And not just that, Germany, be aware of this Spanish team, because this team is a team who is. You saw the two teams who do extremely well over the last couple of days. The two young teams who have got plenty of youngsters who are ready to go out there and be fearless, and that's something which is sending the message out to other teams as well. Regardless of the experience you have, if you're ready to be fearless, ready to go out there, take the defender on one, play those football, keep the ball a lot more, press the opposition a lot more, you can get your chances. I think a lot of teams who fell apart have been the teams who crumbled under pressure, including Argentina and Germany. The teams who have gone on to go out there to win and dominatingly win, England and Spain. Both of these teams have got one thing in common: youngsters going out there and taking on the defenders, sticking true to what they believe in a system. And it's something which is sending out to a World Cup. No matter what the media criticizes, no matter what people think about managers, but if you're staying true to the system and the kind of philosophy which you've embedded into a team, then it's very tough to defeat these teams.
fair enough. Let's run through how Spain's game went. We'll look at some of the stats. Let's start first up with the XG, right? And this is a pretty damning stat right here. It shows how dominant it was. Spain, their XG was close to 3.48, and Costa
Yeah.
Rica never really had a threat. They were never a threat. It was almost as if it's almost equivalent to Costa Rica not being present on the pitch when Spain was playing, like a training exercise.
Yeah, it did look like one of those games, especially in terms of the way Spain was trying to build the game. They kept the ball possession a lot more. They were absolutely dominant throughout the course of the game. It was not that Spain was dominant in phases, but you're talking about 90 minutes of utter domination, 90 minutes of going out there and proving the world that we are a team and we are going to really take on the opposition for absolute fun. And I'm going to share you a stat very soon, which will look like a 10-year-old scribbling, but then those are the Spain's passes which they have made through the course of the game, and that looks like a 5-year-old scribbling on a notebook,
I
but then that's the
mean,
number of passes they have made.
I just
Yeah,
have
go
to
ahead.
say, even today the grass was, it was not green, it was La Roja. That's the
It
best way to put
was.
it. Yeah, as you show that stat, of the passing, it's pretty much it's pretty much red all over the place. And Costa Rica were playing white and blue, but they might as well have been green in color, the green of grass.
Yeah, I mean, it just looked like there was no opposition today at all. I mean, there were a
Yeah.
couple of phases in which Costa Rica did look threatening, but once again, Spain trying to nullify that, especially with the kind of ball playing defenders they have. It was not like they could press the defenders. You have a Rodri as a defender who's a press resistant man. He's so calm and composed on the ball that when he plays as a center back, the build up starts right from the goalkeeper, and then Rodri has a baller of time, and then Laporte, his stats are even crazier. He alone made more passes than Costa Rica in the game. Can you believe that? I'll just pull out Emerick Laporte's heat map and the number of passes he made today, and it was just crazy to see that. And that's something which I thought was okay. This is okay. I'm fine with whatever is happening. But then the number of passes Emerick Laporte alone made, and when you compare it with a Costa Rican team of its own, that is crazy. I mean, that is where I feel. Uh, they were dominated in all phases. And once again, going back to the very fact that how Lucho went in with a system rather than believing in players who are informed. Aymeric Laporte today alone had close to 90 passes, which was more than uh, what Costa Rica had in the entire game. And now, if I'm going to pull out another stat, which is going to be very interesting for you all to watch, and it looked like a 5-year-old scribbling, but then the fact is that that is what the game looked like today. This is what the passing map of Spanish football team was. It was they made total of look at number of passes they made. They made close to 1,043 passes in a game, and it was just a training ground drill which was done by Spanish national team
Oh,
on
by the
Costa
way,
Rica.
the passing accuracy is 93%. So you imagine the kind of how many of those passes have actually hit their targets. It's close to 900 plus. So that's
Yes,
just crazy amount of passes.
absolutely. And that's where you feel like this was a training ground exercise. Now, if you have to just
Yeah. I mean,
look into
if
the
you guys know about something called El Rondo or Rondo, I think that's what it's called. I'm
yeah,
not, my Spanish is
yeah,
really bad. But it's
oh
basically,
no,
when three players pass with one player in the middle, trying to defend, trying to, get the ball. And that's pretty much what it was today, wasn't it? It just seemed like it was three against one when it came to Spain. Almost as if Spain were playing with 33 players on the pitch. I think I'm being too harsh on
absolutely.
Costa Rica, but then these stats are
Look at those,
damning.
stats, right? Uh, it just
Yeah.
looked like everything zero, except the possession, which is zero percentage. It was just, it just looked
I
like no
think
other team
even
has done apart.
being Asian, what do you say? Being Indian subcontinent, 18% is very close to zero.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And this is just telling the people out there that this Spanish national team on their day can dominate you left, right, and center. And I personally have a feeling that this is a team to watch out for. We did talk about here how the Spanish team is a dangerous team, and now they're proving it on the pitch as well. How they if they're going to stick to their systems, if they're going to go out there and play the kind of football they can play at the end of the day, they are going to be a very tough team to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at some of the I mean, as you've already shown the passes. Let's look at the passing network once. Able, can you run me through this stat right here? It does seem like the midfield of Spain is just way too was just the engine room. You would say, Laporte, Rodri, Espilicueta, Jordi Alba, Pedri, Olmo, Busquets, Gavi. There's too much traffic right there, especially Sergio Busquets, right? We did talk about how
You
he
see where
hasn't proved
everybody is passing the
himself.
ball to? That's the engine room right
Yeah,
there, Sergio Busquets.
yeah,
I personally
yeah.
I
This is
still have a
the Sergio
feeling of
Busquets we
Sergio Busquets.
know.
But come on, man, where is this guy when he plays for Barcelona? I just have a
As they say, you keep the best for the last. That's what Sergio Busquets has done. He's that the second casket of wine that was brought out. I mean, I'm sorry, Barcelona fans, you missed out on the better side of things. But Sergio Busquets, I think maybe it's also got to do with the fact that he is almost called time on his Barcelona career. He might even retire from Spanish football team after this. I'm not saying this is confirmed, but it's a possibility there. So is there something? Is it a man on a mission? End on a high.
Yes, you can say so. That's one motivational factor for sure. But then, when you talk about Sergio Busquets, I think closely you have to monitor the player who's right behind him. Rodri, right here. Rodri has been playing as important a role for this team as Sergio Busquets. He is playing essentially a center defensive midfielder's role, but playing from a backline. He's controlling the play from a backline. You often use that term, but then here in this team, that's what's happening. You need a ball playing goalkeeper. Yes, understandable. You have Emerick Laporte who's fantastic in ball playing ability, and him going into Rodri and Rodri passing, creating those chances. Look at the way in which Rodri's connecting, right? Rodri either passes to Pedri, Busquets, or Gavi, and from there the attacking progression starts. Or he
Yeah.
even passes, he even pass a diagonal ball straight even to Olmo at times. So these are the passing lanes, or these are the passing networks, which is creating a lot more attacking threats is for especially Spain to make those run in behinds, get in position, build up,
Also, I mean,
maintain the
if you look at
yeah,
if you look at this map right here, will you also see the range, right? You
yeah.
see that from Jordi Alba to Azpilicueta, both of them are getting the passes and the players in the middle. So for a Costa Rican defense, they can't focus on one flank. They have to make sure that all sides of the ground are covered. And how do you do that as a defense, especially against players who are top class?
Absolutely. I mean, just look at the way in which, just look at that flanks, right? Especially if you're talking Jordi Alba
Yeah,
or Jordi Alba's link up with Danny Olmo was top notch. Him overlapping over Danny Olmo in multiple occasions. Danny Olmo is another player who likes to cut inside. So on left hand side, Jordi Alba was giving that width, which you have been seeing of Jordi Alba over the years. Which you will continue to see of Jordi Alba until he retires. That's what he is very good at doing. But then here, once again, talking about Pedri playing in those half spaces, trying to link up play, trying to be more creative with Danny Olmo was fantastic as well. If you look, Pedri did not have direct connections with maybe a Marcus Asensio or a Ferran Torres. It was all going through those channels. It looked like negative football to a lot of people. Pedri goes back or to Aymeric Laporte, or then Pedri goes to Rodri to Busquets then switches the flank. It is not switching flank by long balls as you see with some other teams. They have a particular system through which they switch the ball. I know it can be very predictable at times, but that's the key of Spain, right? They play at their best when they do this kind of football, which helps them, which is a complete rotation. They go at a particular flank, then they do a complete rotation, come back on a circular motion, then start playing through the other flank. Then it keeps on happening. It is not just the moment they switch the flank, they go to the defender to the center defensive midfielder, the midfielder to the right midfielder, and then he passes the ball to the right back or to the right winger. So that's something which has been that's something which is very common with the Spanish team over the years. You can call it the tiki taka, but then it is a different kind of tiki taka. It's not essentially a tiki taka where you have a triangular motion, or as you mentioned, El Rondo, where it's a triangular space or a zonal where triangle zone where you have three players who are in triangle positions, then pass it to triangle one and your edge of the triangle, then pass back and then moves on. It's something very similar, but in a different way. Yeah, absolutely, Armando Broja. It's something which is very similar to that tiki taka, as we mentioned. Your analysis on Lucho was on point. Um, yeah, I mean something which we did speak about as well when we were doing the preview, right? I think Lucho is very
Yeah.
underrated, and I think we should give him the credit for that the fact that he is a person who's on a mission, who has transformed this team, regardless of what you blame him for his selection. Today, Yamal did not even go with the Carvajal, which was very surprising to me. He went with an Azpilicueta.
Yeah.
I think he should ideally go with Carvajal. That's something which I still have my thing. So I don't think there are so many right backs in the world who comes to the quality of
I mean, it's
Carvajal
also
and Carvajal.
possible, right, that today it was Costa Rica. We've seen this with a lot of managers already. It didn't backfire for Spain, but it did not backfire for Spain. But is it also possible that he was resting a few players before the bigger games,
Yes, I
specifically
possibly
Germany?
think so. Especially Germans are the teams who are going to face next, and it's a must-win game for both, especially for Germany. Now, if you look at the context
Yeah.
of things, how things are panning out, Spain is in a pole position to knock out one of the strongest teams out of the World Cup and send them home packing
Hmm.
second consecutive time out of
I
the group
mean,
stage.
I think it'll be one of those times when Japan will be hoping for what do you say, a little bit of help from Germany. So I mean, not Germany, but Spain this time rather. So yeah, I mean, if that happens, that'll be a big what do you say, favor for Japan because that might mean the first for yet another time they enter the round of 16.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Spain are well on course, and especially in terms of goal difference as well. I don't think any other team in the entirety of World Cup has that kind of goal difference, and especially in that
You
group to
know.
have such kind of goal
I think there are
difference.
there are there are some groups able where if you add all the goal differences, still you won't end up at this.
Absolutely, and if, you already saw that Croatia was a Morocco game as well. You saw some nil-nil draws in this World Cup, but I still feel the quality of game were top notch. You can't say though
Yeah, it
this
has
has
been.
not reflected in
It has
scoreline.
been.
The intensity, the end-to-end gameplay, the tactical masterclasses from these coaches was top notch. I think I personally think you can't take anything away from the kind of gameplay shown by any team in this World Cup. That's why I keep telling this World Cup is one of the most evenly balanced World Cup after a very, very long time. I think 2010 is something which I keep very close to this World Cup, but then this is way ahead of that in terms of the quality, in terms of the talent pool in this World Cup, in terms of the teams, the planning, the data which has gone into every team. It's highly a data driven World Cup than
Yeah,
any other
it
World
is. It
Cups.
is. In
It
fact,
is.
even the extra time now is timed by Hublot, which means that that's the reason why we're having such lengths of extra time. 14 minutes. Okay, that was in the Iran England game, if I'm not wrong. That went on for an hour. The first half it went for 60 minutes. The first half. So the what do you say? There can't be any more time wasting tactics because you're on a clock now. Everything is data driven down to the last minute detail.
I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's something which is that's something which is very new to this World Cup. But at the same time, I personally feel that's
Yeah.
also helped all these smaller nations.
Correct. It has. It has. I mean, the football that has been designed by Adidas, it can record data 500 times a second. So you imagine the amount of data. What I mean, it can record who was the last player to touch the ball, who's the. I mean, what is the speed of the speed of the kick and the amount of defense and whatnot. Even offside, for instance, we've already seen that happen. Uh, I think it was the Argentina game. We saw that happen today, in fact, to Germany in the second half, right? When in the first half, rather, when their second goal was ruled out, which turned out, by the way, to be a match. What do you say? Winning goal, winning moment for Japan. Because if not, if any other World Cup, it would have been a 2-0 draw, or maybe even a 2-1 defeat to Japan.
Yeah.
Because of course, a 2-0 in the second half, in a first half, which was very bad for Japan, it would have really deflated them, but maybe that was the turning point right there. The fact that they went in 1-0 into the half time rather than 2-0. I think that's why Japan really believed that something was in their favor.
I mean, absolutely, Jaren. In terms of the way in which every aspect in this World Cup has been covered by a lot of teams, especially when it comes to minute details in terms of analyzing your opposition, especially when it comes to you being 1-0 down, for them to come back into the game and strategizing in the halftime in itself speaks how much of tactical master classes done by coaches can come into effect. Now, today, talking about them going three at the back, especially Moriyasu doing that. in the halftime, bringing in a Tomiyasu to replace a Kubo. Or yesterday when Hervé Renard brought changed the system slightly more, and making them to press a lot more, making them a lot more direct, making them to press the Argentinian defense a lot more, was tactical changes made through the course of the game. And these tactical changes have come into effect so beautifully when you compare it with any other World Cup. I know you say that there have been some genius moves over the years, but in this World Cup especially, you're seeing that more and more often. Now, if we talk about Mexico versus Poland game was another example. There were chances where Poland could have finished the game off, but then Mexican defense, the organization by Tata Martinez was outstanding. They knew they were the weaker team leading into that game. The organization of defense to analyze the attacking threat of Robert Lewandowski and to make sure Zelensky did not really get spaces to put in balls to Lewandowski was top notch. You could have been a weaker team on paper, but then what you have in your hand is to plan the best how to stop the best player of the opposition team. And that's where I personally feel a lot of teams have done this so beautifully through the course of this World Cup. And I think it's only going to get better as they go ahead into this World Cup. Uh, I'm waiting. You're going to be in for a mouth-watering finish to the group stages, because now everything looks suddenly on balance. Now a lot of big teams will be taking a note of it. Now they're like, there are no easy points, regardless of who you're playing against. Now tomorrow Ghana are playing Portugal. You don't know what's going to really happen. South Korea are playing Uruguay, or Brazil are playing Serbia. Anything can happen from anywhere. Now that's how
Yeah,
balanced this World Cup has become. There is no big names out there. It's about who tactically outperforms on that particular day. Now everybody has a
yeah.
belief that we can outperform teams tactically, which is possible with any team. Maybe you're weak on the paper, you're weak on certain aspects, but tactically you can outperform any teams in terms of planning. And that's the most beautiful thing about this World Cup.
All right. I mean, there is a game going on right now, Abel, as we speak. But
Yeah.
we are a little late, but we will still, probably can give you the ideal fantasy preview of the game that are happening. Probably this could be, a moment for some of you to be validated for your picks if you have already picked. And if
Yeah.
not, maybe we might be wrong or we might be right, and we just find it after the 90 minutes. But Abel, what are your picks for the fantasy team for the ongoing match? By the way, you
I
can't
mean,
change your
I'll
lineups
definitely
after
have
looking at what
if
Abel
I
has
have
already.
two players in my team. If I'm just going to say two players who you should be having as captaincy and vice captaincy candidate, I'll go in with Kevin De Bruyne. He's my favorite player. Not because of that, just because of what he can possibly bring into the
No, I
uh,
mean you
calling
have to
team.
take Kevin De Bruyne in the team. I think this man is so good. He is so good with assists. I think he can turn water to wine one of these days. He's that
I
good
mean,
when
just
it
talk
comes to
about Kevin
assists.
De Bruyne, his distribution skills, his services to the final third,
Yeah,
him being the lead man for the attack. You put him anywhere on the pitch, he can give you a job, and he'll give you a work rate.
absolutely.
He's gonna create a lot more chances. I love the way in which both the teams are lined up, but I'm very excited about Jonathan David. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already heard him through
Hmm.
League One. I have this crazy feeling that Canada are gonna upset Belgium today and get that win with Alfonso Davis and Jonathan David linking up. Alfonso Davis for Canada plays as a left winger when you talk him as a left
Oh,
back
Abel,
for
I think
Germany.
as we're saying this, I think there is a possible watch. I mean, VAR check for a penalty. It's turning out to be a watch along, but we will keep you updated on that. Abel, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who has gotten the penalty. I've not switched on the match yet. So
I think it is. Yeah, I think this is in the what do you say Belgium line. I think it's for a handball.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. But yeah, as I was the predictions to what
it
I'm
could be a
saying,
penalty. Abel.
for Canada, is it?
Yeah,
And as I'm saying, guys, I already manifested it. Canada are winning this.
guys, wait. Abel, wait. I think this is. I
It's
think it is
not.
a penalty. Yup. It is a pen. Abel, you are manifesting things.
It
I
is a penalty
think
was saved,
yeah. It is a penalty on handball, and I think it's Carrasco who's gotten a yellow card as well.
and it's a save.
Um,
It's a save.
is it a save
Thibaut Courtois
already?
saved it. Yeah.
Oh God, I think you're already ahead. Yeah. I am not live right now. Yep.
Yeah, it's penalty is conceded. I'm manifesting too much. I think I should stop. Canadians don't kill me. I still love Tim Hortons, by the way. So just just to
Oh,
put it there.
Canadians are, from what I know, Belgians and Canadians are two of the
I was
most.
expecting Diljinder Singh to start for Canada in the attack line. Very surprised he did not start. It is Jonathan David who has started. Very surprised. No
And
Punjabi players.
Canada and what do you say, Punjabis? It is some connection. It's some connection.
Very surprised no
You
Punjabis have started for
have to
Canada
have.
team. And if this was a cricket team, you would have seen four Punjabis or five Punjabis play for that team. It'll be some sings, but it's a football team at the end of the day. But I freaking love Alfonso Davis. I am a big fan of Alfonso Davis. To be very honest, if I have to have one left back in my any of my favorite teams, I love Alfonso Davis. Love the kind of development he had. Born in a refugee camp, for him to make the progress to
Yeah,
go on to the Champions League at that age. It's now to play in the World Cup. Now those are what dreams are made up of. Now you stick true to your dreams. I'm being more philosophical here, but that's a fact, man. This guy is a player to watch out for. And Canada are already showing what they can possibly do. Don't take
they
Canadian
are. They
team
are. They look
lightly.
like the stronger team so far.
They look like stronger team so far. Belgium are coming off a loss against Egypt. Uh, and
Yeah.
who took the penalty, by the way? Was it Alfonso Davis? Yeah, I know he missed the penalty, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, uh, Thibaut Courtois is the best goalkeeper, I think, in the world right now in terms of his shot stopping
Yeah, I
skills
mean,
and
you
how
would
he
really
can.
know a lot about it. Yeah, Champions League. Uh,
No, at least
Liverpool
against us,
fans, Man City fans.
yeah, at least against us, he has not done that a lot, so it's still fine. But Canada looking very threatening at this point, and they were,
Yeah.
and oh my god, the number of chances in the box,
I mean,
it
the
is.
ball hasn't left Belgium's final third.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It looks like a very close game.
I think it looks like so far Canada is the only thing that stands between Canada and Belgium right now. I mean, Canada and that 1-0 seems to be Thibaut Courtois.
Absolutely, and I still think it's gonna be a Canadian game, as I already predicted. But then with Belgium, there are the moments of magic. Any player can turn it up for them.
That's the thing
Batshuayi,
about Kevin De Bruyne right there, right?
yeah,
I think his rate, if I'm not wrong, Abel, every 90 minutes, Thibaut Courtois, not Thibaut Courtois, Kevin De Bruyne comes up with 3.47 key passes. So that's three and a
absolutely.
half key passes every 90 minutes. So he's gonna give you three chances every game. That out of
Yeah.
those three chances, all you need to convert is one goal.
Out of
And
those three
then
chances,
hope your
he
defense holds
himself
on.
will be in front of the post couple of times, or he himself will create a moment of magic by himself. He's gonna come outside the box,
Yeah.
pin one, and that's something which is he's got the ability. He's got one of the best shot taking skills in the world right now. I know Lukaku is not
Yeah.
playing this game, not started for them. I think he's still injured. But the fact is, Kevin De Bruyne is as good in front of the goal, better than anybody else as well. He's a Messi
Yeah.
kind of a stature. I'm not comparing him with Messi, but then the profile
The
of
kind of
what he
role he
catches,
plays, yes.
yeah, you can expect him to be as dangerous in the world. It's just moments of magic which you need from Kevin De Bruyne and also
Yeah.
Hazard
And
as well.
Lukaku is just watching from the stands, and I think it's time we let everyone go because this is turning very dangerously close to a watch along, which is not what we promised. And we have college in the morning as well, guys. So we have to go, unfortunately, because this is turning out to be a very good match. I mean, I would love to sit here and watch. I am in somewhat of a Canadian colors, predominant white, little bit of red.
Yeah,
But thank you so much,
I'm in
guys.
black as
Once
always. I'm I support the black teams of this World Cup.
I am just going to move on and thank you guys for joining us on this live. Thank you, Abel. And please don't forget to download and play on Boomer 11 the fantasy experience that it will provide during the FIFA World Cup. And if you are, by chance, not someone who knows a lot about football fantasy, you still have cricket and basketball as well. So it's not like you
Crazy
are
game
having
happening
any
there.
lack of options.
It's
So
crazy what's
please
happening
do
out
go
there.
ahead.
I think
Yeah.
a 1-0 is coming very soon. Canada. And I personally think this is
I mean, it's now
something
or
which
never. That's for
I'm,
sure.
I'm expecting Canada
It's
to make it
now
out
or
of the group.
never.
I'm already predicting Canada to make it out of the group, and they possibly will. Just watch out.
All right. On that note, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for your comments as well. Please do like and subscribe the channel. It helps us a lot. It gives us that motivation every day on a college night to come and give you this content. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Thank you, Abel. Until tomorrow, goodbye.
Bye bye.